Alrighty, welcome everyone to the Marketing Series Events Study Session. This was originally supposed to be January 22nd in the morning, but due to school cancellation, we're doing it virtually. I'm so glad all of you could make it, and it's going to be a good one. So basically, we're just going to go over the different marketing series events, what you should focus on depending on what event you chose, and tips and tricks for each event, along with some practice questions and example performance indicators. So let's get right into it. Apparel and accessories marketing. One of the lesser competitive areas, but still pretty competitive. You're going to be challenged on your marketing, management function, and tasks within retail establishments, wholesaling, and manufacturing firms. You're going to see this mainly in your role plays, where you're going to be placed as an employee or a manager of a retail establishment or a wholesaler, or maybe you're the head of a distribution chain, right? It depends on the or it depends on the event, it depends on the instructional area, what what kind of position you're going to get. Like if you get emotional intelligence, you'll probably be like just a general employee, or maybe you'll deal with customer service. But regardless, you're gonna be talking about clothing, and this might entail like special vocabulary, fashion terminology. You don't necessarily need to have a deep knowledge on fashion itself, but you should know how marketing applies to fashion. Like I had a role play last year at Districts for AAM that talked about fast fashion, and the marketing between fast fashion and maybe more luxurious brands, right? So regardless of what they're testing you on, some knowledge of like how clothing is distributed, manufactured, all that is highly recommended for success. Here is an example practice test question. While this is, while I did pick this because it was closer to like what you might find in AAM, these are all going to be from the same marketing cluster exam. So even if you're not taking apparel and accessories, it's still useful to practice these type of questions. So pause the video if you want. Try to answer this question. Okay, I hope you tried to answer the question to the best of your ability. You should have said B for your answer. Here's the explanation that DECA gives. But basically, all these other ones had some form of nonverbal communication, but this answer B specifically includes positive reinforcement with the nonverbal communication, and that's kind of what they're looking for, right? And a good tip, not just for AEM but for all categories, is these test questions can give you insight into how you should approach your role play, right? When they're asking you, which of the following is an example of an employee using nonverbal communication effectively? If you know the right answer to this, you could think, maybe if I'm an employee in an emotional intelligence instructional area for my AEM role play, I can utilize positive communication through like not nonverbal methods. That might be something you hit on, especially if a performance indicator is talking about types of communication. Here's a second practice test question. I'll give you a couple seconds to answer. Alrighty, let's see if you were right. I don't know if you were or not, but the answer is B. The explanation is a poor economy will hurt sales for some businesses, but will help others. And this is going to go for, say if your instructional area is economics, they might ask you some questions about the economy, about maybe supply and demand. And I highly recommend, regardless of what marketing series event you're in, research or go over personal finance and economic terminology. It's valuable for any event you do in DECA, but specifically marketing. Having the marketing alongside knowledge of finance will make you stand out from other role players. We have another AEM practice test question. Colors, logos, and images are all elements that make up a company's blank. I'll give you a couple seconds to answer. Alrighty, if you chose the answer D, you are correct. This is one of the easier questions. A lot of these DECA questions, if you haven't taken these tests already, you might be surprised at how easy some of the answers are, and that's because a lot of it is common sense. So you do need the base of marketing information or marketing knowledge to answer the questions, but they're going to give you a lot of freebies like this. Colors, logos, and images are all elements that make up a company's brand identity. And if you're struggling with any of these questions, let's go back. If you're struggling with any of these, I would recommend just use process of elimination. Like for question 1, using nonverbal communication effectively to reinforce their service orientation. Looking at all these questions, rolled her eyes, Tristan answers his telephone and said, that's not nonverbal. Paul crossed his arms and tapped his foot impatiently, B, nodded and maintained eye contact. Ching! They love that. That's positive. Question 2. Which of the following is a true statement regarding how economic conditions may affect a business's sales forecast? We look through all of these answers. A poor economy will decrease sales for all types of business. Avoid absolutes. A poor economy will hurt sales for some businesses, but will help others. Okay, I like the nuance. Economic conditions have very little impact on sales forecasts. Okay, well, you should know that's not correct. Come on, guys. D, a strong economy will increase sales for all types. That's an absolute. We never deal in absolutes. B, next question. And then, we were just on question 3, colors, logos, and images are all elements that make up a company's distributor brand. What do you see about distributing in this, question? There's nothing about distributing. Distributor, well, a company may have to distribute, but that doesn't make a lot of sense. So maybe you're confused, leave it for now. Brand values. Values typically are hard to represent in colors, logos, and images. Brand values are typically through mission statements, more written or verbal communication. Brand promise, you're going to get more of those values through your brand promise. Brand identity. Identity is like the outward image you're projecting. Colors, logos, images, all visual representations you can project outward. And I think this is the final AM practice test question. Which of the following marketing strategies is appropriate for the decline stage of the product life cycle? I'll give you a couple seconds to answer. Alrighty, if you chose the answer D, you are correct. Selling the product online. Selling the product online is an appropriate marketing strategy for the decline stage. Why? Sometimes marketers can have success distributing product through non-traditional channels. So when we're looking through this, right? When I read, which of the following marketing strategies is appropriate for the decline stage? I'm thinking immediately, visual image, that graph we always show you. If you don't know the product life cycle, hand in your DECA membership, Miss Kemp's room, G203. You shouldn't be in DECA. Product life cycle. We have the introduction, we have growth, we have maturity, and then we have the decline. Decline, our product is losing sales. We may not want to close the product entirely, but all of these, increasing promotion. If it's on the decline stage, we're not going to be increasing promotion. It's kind of past its prime, if you will. Marketing to early adopters, that's going to be in more the introduction stage. Expanding the product line, You typically wouldn't see that in the decline. You would more want to expand the product line either in growth or maturity. And selling the product online is the only one that is appropriate for the decline stage, because the decline stage, we're still trying to not revive the product, but boost its sales. Increasing promotion is going to cost us a lot of money. Selling the product online, we might hit a new market that we initially didn't target. So this one might be a little more confusing, but yeah, hopefully that helps. Raise your hand if you're doing sports and entertainment marketing. Probably half of you raised your hand, because this is one of the most competitive marketing series events at districts and at CDC, and just in general at DECA. People love sports and entertainment. Sports and entertainment marketing, you guys already know. You're going to take the marketing core exam, 2 role plays. You're going to need to have knowledge of various sporting and entertainment events. I would also recommend, and this is why a lot of people choose it, but just having knowledge of sports in general. Maybe you have personal experiences with sports. Maybe you have personal experiences going to concerts. So you might know something or two about sports and entertainment. This is one where it's not necessarily hard to get the knowledge of, which is why, in order to make yourself stand out, I would highly recommend going deeper into researching sports and entertainment marketing. You know, how are a lot of concerts set up? Like, think about it. The safety, like how are you hiring safety for concerts? Who are you hiring for sound systems and sound monitoring? How are you working concessions? All this stuff. So it's more than just about the sports and entertainment itself. It's about everything that surrounds it. We got some practice questions. I'm going to try to go through these a bit quicker. But a producer can minimize channel conflict among its distributors and retailers by, I'll give you a couple seconds. Alrighty, time is up. If you said B, offering different products through each channel, you are correct. Now, here is the DECA explanation, but I want to go through this similar to how I did the other questions. So I read this question. A producer can minimize channel conflict among its distributors and retailers by selling its items directly to the end users. Now let's think about this. If we're trying to minimize channel conflict among distributors and retailers, selling items directly to the end users, you might initially think it's a good idea, but this can cause a lot of problems. But for now, we'll leave it, right? Offering different products through each channel. Here we can see DECA says when each channel sells different products, they are not directly competing among themselves for business. That is exactly right, because the majority of channel conflict is going to come through selling similar products, and that's when most of the conflict is going to occur. If you're working on different products, different projects in general, there's going to be less conflict because they're going to be interacting less. Question 2, interest rates rising and falling by a wide range on a regular basis often are an indication of, I'll give you a couple seconds. Alrighty. If you said economic instability, you are correct. DECA explanation, this one's, if you just think about it, it's rather simple. Think about it. Rising and falling by a wide range on a regular basis, that reminds me of like a volatile market. Like, it's rising and falling, but I wouldn't call it volatile because it's on a regular basis. So it's consistent. Indication of price equilibrium. I'm gonna be real. No, like a lot of you might not even know what this means. I wouldn't even consider this, right? Seasonal unemployment, interest rates and seasonal unemployment. if you think about it logically, how's the unemployment affecting interest rates? And first and second of all, is unemployment really seasonal? Is there, like, surely the unemployment doesn't rise during the spring, like fall during the winter. Like, that's not how unemployment works. Flexible capital, that's just not going to have anything to do with the interest rates. Economic instability is where you're going to see falling by a wide range. It's going to show that the interest rates, normally in a stable market, interest rates are, they're set and then they're kind of at steady. They might increase over time, but it's never up and down, up and down, up and down. That's not how interest rates work. Number 3, most marketers cannot expect to maintain their profit rates unless they, I'll give you a couple seconds. If you answered A, introduce new products from time to time, you are right. I want you to pay attention to this DECA explanation, and I'm going to give my own as well. This is one of the harder ones, or maybe not harder, but more confusing to a lot of people. So if we reread the question, most marketers cannot expect to maintain, keyword, maintain their profit rates unless they introduce new products from time to time. Immediately I'm thinking, okay, yes, that's true. I mean, if you stick with one product for a long time, it's going to be hard to maintain your profit because eventually, your technology might be outdated, whatever it is. If it's fashion, it might go out of style. And in the world of sports entertainment marketing, if it's like you're just offering like the same experiences, those profit rates might start to decline. So A makes sense, but let's look at the other options. B, test market new products. Now, this is similar to A, but the key reason of why it's incorrect is test market. We're testing new products. Well, testing new products is not necessarily going to maintain our profit rate. Sure, we need to test new products. Oh, whoops. We need to test new products, but that's not what's going to help maintain our profit. Allow products to move through the product life cycle. Now, I assume if you didn't choose A, you probably chose C. Allow products to move through the product cycle. This initially makes sense because you're like, oh, well, we want to introduce products, and then they grow, and they mature, and then they decline. We want to maintain our profit. But in reality, allowing the product to move through a product life cycle is going to fluctuate profit rates, right? At the beginning, you might be making less. At maturity, you're going to be making peak profit. And then decline, you're going to be making less. So that's not maintaining your profit rates. Whereas if you introduce new products, you're able to time it to where you always have a product at its peak point in the life cycle. That's why it's so important to have multiple products. All right, and question 4. Which of the following examples depicts an advantage of using digital advertising? I'll give it a couple seconds. Okay, now before I even show this, let's go through this. Let's start with D. Which of the following examples depicts an advantage of using digital advertising? Okay, digital advertising, an advantage. Keywords. Digital ads are more expensive. Even if it's right, that's not an advantage. Conversion rates of banner ads are more difficult. That's not an advantage. I don't even know if that's true or not. Doesn't matter. Ethan uses ad blocking software. Well, we don't want them to block it. That's not an advantage. That's a disadvantage. Viewers must interact with the video before continuing to a website. Bada bing, we found our answer. And you might, now make sure you're coming at these questions through the eyes of business, right? If you're coming through the eyes of, you on YouTube, it's like, oh, I gotta interact with the video. I gotta hit skip ad. I gotta click the X button. I have to watch 15 seconds of the ad before continuing. It's like, that sucks for you, but for business, that's what we want. We want eyes on the product. So keep that in mind when going through these. Back to AAM. here's some performance indicators that I just want to briefly go over, briefly explain. And if I explain these and you still don't really understand,